The University of South Africa's political science professor, Dirk Kotze, joins us now via Zoom to share more thoughts on this story. Professor, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Globe.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Now, we see the IEC urging South Africans to come out in large numbers to register to vote for the upcoming local government elections. So, Prof, what's your analysis of the IEC's preparedness and readiness to hold these polls?
Well, I think this weekend will be an important part of it in order to make sure that the voters' roll is as complete as possible. So this is important, but then immediately thereafter, the issues about the nomination of the candidates will still be ongoing. And once that has been concluded, then the proclamation of the election date must follow, and from there on, the verification of the nominees must take place, and then the production of the ballot papers. And it's about 75 million ballot papers that must be printed. And for all of this, there's about 6 weeks left. So it is a congested period for the IEC, but they've done it in the past. So it is both based on the same sort of procedures, the same timetable that they have used in all the previous elections. So it's not new ground that they have to break. It is based on a lot of experience and a lot of tradition that the Commission have built up over time.
Well, Professor, are you anticipating a barrage of court cases coming the IEC's way, seeing that most independent candidates, most political parties were not so happy with how things, had turned out? Some were actually hoping that the Constitutional Court will postpone these elections, and not everybody is happy about how things have turned out. So are you anticipating that, the IEC will have to deal with so many court cases post the elections?
No, I don't think there will be these type of court cases. There might be cases about the procedures itself at the time of the election, but once they've reached the point of where the Constitutional Court have dealt with the application of the DA, then to a large extent that part of possible litigation is to a large extent will be concluded. What we have seen in the past is often when there's disputes about the preparations for the elections, the days before the election, about, for example, disqualifying some of the nominees, some of the candidates, and then at the time of the announcement of elections. These are the opportunities where there might be still some disputes. But at the same time, one should look at the IEC. It has a very good infrastructure to deal with disputes, especially the different party liaison committees, is something which the IEC over time developed and uses in a quite effective way in order to preempt disputes or to resolve disputes at a very early stage. If that cannot be resolved, then it goes to the Electoral Court, which deals with issues on very short notice and can conclude them also very quickly. So there is a very good dispute resolution mechanisms that are available to the IEC. And therefore, I think it's not going to be as problematic as many people might anticipate.
And speaking of disputes and dispute resolution, we know that, the ANC has always been fraught with candidate lists and nomination lists and disputes arising thereof. And we've seen some protests taking place at Luthuli House, some of the ANC members, lamenting the fact that the candidate lists have been imposed on them. Yet ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe says the way the candidate nominations process has been conducted this year is far different from the previous years, because the community now get to select who they will represent, as the candidates for the ANC. So in terms of the dispute resolution of the ANC, will this not perhaps come in the way of their campaigning and preparing for these elections?
Well, this is a party matter. The IEC is not involved in that. But yes, you are correct. I mean, in the past, we can think especially about 2011 with the local government elections, where there were many disputes and conflicts even. And the ANC had to establish a special committee chaired by Dr. Dlamini Zuma in order to deal with that. Now there's a dispute resolution committee in the ANC chaired by the Deputy Secretary General that deals with disputes in general, as well as the Electoral Committee chaired by Kgalema Motlanthe. So the ANC has established quite a number of internal mechanisms to deal with it. But this is such a hotly contested period for all parties, but especially the ANC, because this is relatively few positions for councillors and many people competing for that, and the stakes are very high. So the potential for conflicts are very, very clear. And therefore, political parties must be able to manage it, but especially the ANC. So that we can still expect that some of these things might happen.
And central to local government elections, Professor, is the issue of service delivery, the delivery of basic services. And we know that so many people, so many South Africans are not happy with how their parties have delivered. And do you foresee voter apathy in these coming elections? Because people will be of the opinion that why should I go out to vote when their parties or candidates have not delivered in the past?
Yes, unfortunately, local government elections are characterized in South Africa with low voter turnout. In 2016, the previous election, it was only 57%. And the previous elections before that, even lower, around about 50%, compared to the national and provincial elections of at least about 20% more than that. So local government elections, and specifically by-elections, are very much characterized by low voter turnout. And in this case, in this election, if the voter turnout is going to be above 50%, it would have been seen actually as relatively successful compared to the other elections. If it will fall below 50%, then I would say there's a problem with the voter turnout.
All right, Professor, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your analysis on this matter.
Thank you very much.
All right.